Here we are. We are burning the midnight oil, so to speak, for our chapter tonight. It is a Thursday night, approximately 21:27. And yes, somebody's about to come out. Go to bed. Chapter something. 20. Chapter 20. So Tuesday, December 25th. This is Christmas Day. She's not uber skinny, but she's not the chunkiest chapter. But anyway, let's do it. Chapter 20, Tuesday, December 25th. December 2508. Reread my last entry from a couple days ago. I wasn't making a lot of sense. I think I was still in shock over what happened. I have powers. Real powers. Like more than turning into a fish powers. I haven't told anyone about them, not even Wyatt. Speaking of Wyatt, I need to call him, but back to the powers. I haven't tried anything since it happened. It was all kind of an accident, a reaction more than a thought. I don't know if I could do it again. I'm not even sure I want to. Nelly chewed on her lip, sighing. In other news, I've officially missed my first surf competition. It killed me to send my regrets. It killed me to send in my regrets and pull myself. Whoop, sorry, we're making it work today, and it's sort of working. It killed me to send in my regrets and pull myself from the invitational, but because I know it's invitational only, and because I know there's a short list of alternative surfers, I had no choice. I couldn't deny another surfer. That chance. Luckily, Sorry, it keeps like... Just stay. I couldn't deny another surfer that chance. Luckily, me pulling out meant Grace got invited in. That kid can rip it. I couldn't bring myself to watch, but Jo did, and she said Grace creamed everyone. Jo's words, she did you proud. That made me feel good. Jo may also have mentioned that Whitney fell flat on her face and totally washed out. Might be petty, but that made me feel a lot better. Nelly smiled to herself. It might be worth checking with some old surf buddies to see if anyone caught it on camera. It's Christmas today. Jo got Dad a book on sun-drying his own tomatoes. He looked genuinely excited about it. I heard Jo mention she's got a present for Grace she wants to drop off. I thought that might be a good time to tell Dad, without Jo's added drama. I'll tell her later. I am nervous about telling him I'm a mermaid. But I'm more nervous to tell him about Mom. Every time we so much as mention Mom, Dad leaves or turns on some loud kitchen appliance. One time he turned on the blender. There wasn't anything in it. He just said he wanted to make sure it was still working. As if Jo heard Nelly's thoughts as she wrote them. Jo shouted from her room, Dad, I'm headed over to Grace's place on my bike. I'll be home in like an hour or two. Tom responded, Sure thing, kiddo. Be safe. Now or never, Nelly whispered to herself, although now that now was here, never seemed a lot more appealing. She made her way into the kitchen. Tom was standing over the sink slicing up a mango. As Nelly hardened up her courage to begin, Tom beat her to it. Let's hear it, he said, not turning around to see Nelly. What? You've been acting strange since your birthday. First not surfing, then you said you're through, which is fine, he added, setting down his knife. But ever since the earthquake, you've been skidding around here like a nervous kitten. He turned and slid the bowl of sliced mango between them on the island. Let's hear it. You might want to sit down for this, Nelly said, sitting on a bar stool on the other side of the counter. As Tom walked around and sat on the one next to her, Nelly began. So, it did start with my birthday. Nelly unloaded nearly everything, including Wyatt's conversation and mutant theory. That kid has problems, Tom said, shaking his head. Finally, she finished with, and the present from Mom? Nelly had been saving Melinda for last. It's a journal. A mermaid journal. She swallowed, knowing it was best to just rip the Band-Aid off. Mom was one too. Tom stared at Nelly, but kind of beyond her, as though combing through years of memories of his beloved late wife, searching for evidence to prove or disprove what their eldest daughter was telling him. Nelly recognized this look. She called it his thinking face. The last time she had seen it, she'd proposed taking a year off after high school and surfing around the world. Tom had eventually agreed under the condition she apply for university anyway and just defer. I should be surprised, Tom finally said, but it actually makes a lot of sense. Nelly stood, mouth agape and eyes wide. A lot of sense? Are you crazy? She paced around the dining room. I tell you, Mom and I turn into fish, and your response is, that makes sense? I spent almost 20 years married to your mom, Tom said. There was a lot about that woman I never understood. I chalked most of it up to me not understanding women in general, but her being a mermaid makes a lot more sense. Nelly stood aghast. Tom chuckled and muttered something that sounded like, you'll understand when you're older. Nelly shook her head, but Tom just chuckled again and patted her stool, indicating she should sit. You mentioned powers and some girls at school needing your help. Nelly sat down, though her brain was still reeling, seriously doubting she'd understand anything more just because she was older. She nodded. Nelly said, trying to get her brain under control again. Nikki and Emma. Nikki just moved here. I don't remember her last name. And Emma Hugos. She's apparently been in my science class for years. Oh, that's the girl with the medical episodes, right? Tom said. I have a feeling that was just a story, Nelly said, shrugging. Both of the girls have powers, too. Nikki is a witch. At least that's what she told me. And Emma has visions. Episodes, visions. Got it. Tom clicked his tongue. Emma lives with her aunt, right? I guess. Does she have magic too? I don't know, Nelly said, frowning. It'd explain a lot if she did, Tom said mostly to himself. Wait, how do you even know her? School functions and fundraisers. We also buy our fruit at the same place, Tom said with a wave of his hand. So, how are you with all of this? How do I help you? I mean, I don't really know anything about powers and mermaids. Nelly hugged him. For starters, thanks for listening. Nelly was sure Tom had no idea just how valuable his reaction to all her chaos was to her. How he didn't recoil from her magic like she had. How he instead pulled her closer, embracing her, all of her, even more. But he knew she was not the first child to tell her parents that life was not going to look the way they had planned. Sure thing, kid. He kissed the top of her head. Actually, Nelly said, pulling out of the hug, do you know if Mom had any family? There was always Uncle Henry, Tom said. That bum, Nelly groaned. The only time we hear from him is when he sends his annual happy birthday / Merry Christmas / Happy Easter plus whatever other holiday the man has invented recently card, she said, using finger quotes. Henry is the only one I ever met. And the only one who's ever made contact, Tom admitted. Your mom's family was never very fond of me. She always said they weren't fond of anyone. Their secrecy makes more sense now. Why do you need to know? I just need to talk to someone who knows about this stuff. If there's someone related to Mom out there, maybe they're different too, and maybe they can show me what to do next. Nelly shrugged. Tom sighed. Well, kiddo, it looks like we need to start trying to contact some long-lost relatives, huh? Chuckling, he hopped off his stool and grabbed the phone book from the top of the refrigerator. Nelly asked him what was so funny, and Tom looked at her. I never thought I'd be looking up your mom's family to see if there's another mermaid among them. I hope I get in contact with someone soon, or else a lot of people are going to think we're pretty strange. He smiled again and walked down the hall into his room to find his laptop, muttering to himself about whether or not to use the word mermaid in his calls. Dad, Nelly called down the hall, I'm going to go do a little research of my own. Is that okay? Yeah, just stay close by in case I need to prove I'm telling the truth. Okay, Nelly grinned, shaking her head. She'd always known her dad was weird, but who was she to talk? Her most pressing issue now was figuring out the best way to tell Joe. While she considered her options, she did the research she had mentioned to Tom. She spent the next 45 minutes running water and attempting, unsuccessfully, to stop it. Sorry, got to adjust. December 25th, 2008. Dad is home. Magic was definitely involved, but not on my end. All I know for sure is we woke up to someone ringing the doorbell at 5 a.m. Mom was not pleased until she actually answered the door. Why didn't Dad just magic his way in? Who knows? Mom and Dad crashed on the couch. Cam's also asleep, curled up in his brand new Death Star PJs. Mom can finally throw his old PJs away. She hasn't mentioned Grandma being here, but I imagine Dad already knows. How can he not? I'm dying to ask him tons of questions, but I don't want to make Mom mad. It's Christmas and she's talking to me, probably because it's Christmas, but I'm not one to look the gift horse in the mouth. Busy? Rand, Nikki's dad, poked his almost white blonde head in her room. Not really, what's up? Nikki sat up in her unmade bed. She'd been laying down and writing in her journal, as was her habit. Can I talk to you? Rand asked. He was dressed in his usual black shirt and jeans. Is this about getting magic powers or about being a witch? Because I'm a bit past that, Nikki said, grinning. Rand smiled, adjusted his glasses, and said, well, it has something to do with that. Nikki closed her journal, giving him her full attention. He sat on her bed. You're not just a witch. Am I a fairy princess, too? She waggled her eyebrows. Rand chuckled. Not exactly. You're the first half-human witch in our family in over 5,000 years. Our family has been around that long? My side has, and they've only ever married other witches, Rand said. That's insane. So by marrying Mom, you broke a long-standing tradition? You could say that. Rand nodded. So am I not as powerful? Is my magic diluted by Mom's non-magic half? Quite the opposite, Rand said. As of right now, you're the most powerful witch there has ever been. Nikki was speechless for a moment until finally she managed to stutter out, but how? Well, I have the blood of the 5,000 years of witches who came before me running through my veins. That's all I have. He paused, his mouth set in a straight line. I don't understand, Nikki said. Do you remember when you were really interested in British royalty and we talked about how, because they had to keep the blood pure, there was a lot of marrying within the same family? So we're magical rednecks? Well, not exactly, Rand laughed, but after 5,000 years, you'd be hard-pressed to find a witch we're not related to. Like dogs, Nikki suddenly said. When we picked Ringo from the pound, there was a purebred beagle next to him, and I wanted to get him. But you said purebred dogs often have more medical problems and weaker immune systems because they're so inbred. We got Ringo, the mutt dog, instead because his mixture made him a stronger, healthier dog. Am I a Ringo and you're a beagle? Essentially, yes, Rand said, smiling. He was a good dog, Nikki said, reminiscing. Wait, you can't be the first one to break the tradition of marrying magical. Oh, I'm not. But I am the first one to do it after 5,000 years straight. Your birth was prophesied. Is that another reason Mom is so anti? She doesn't know, he said with a grimace. Mom knows everything, Nikki said, rolling her eyes. This will be news then. Why didn't you tell her? Nikki's eyes were almost as wide as her mouth. Rand frowned. She had a lot on her plate at the time. She had just found out that her husband and child were magical. Adding on the fulfillment of prophecy didn't seem like a wise choice, he admitted. Is this why you came back for Christmas? Nikki asked. It's part of the reason. What exactly does a prophecy say? I haven't been able to find it. I hope Madame Ortega would be able to help you. I know she has many of the original books of prophecy. You know her? Nikki asked. We didn't get transferred to Otter Sands by accident, Rand grimaced. It's in a book? Yes, a book of prophecies. You wouldn't know who gave the prophecy, would you? Nikki asked. Or do you know what number priestess it was who made the prophecy? I'm not sure, actually. I know it was one of the early ones, though. The prophecy has been legend for, 5,000 years, Nikki said. 5,000 what? Margaret said, coming into Nikki's room carrying a basket of clean and folded laundry. Years, Nikki piped in. Dad's family has been around for over 5,000 years. Don't be ridiculous, Nikki. Margaret put the basket on the floor and bent over, opening Nikki's bottom dresser drawer. No one can trace their family back that far. She looked at Rand with a look which clearly said children, complete with eye roll. It's true, Nikki said, standing. She's right, Rand said, always the calm in the eye of the storm, a skill born of years in the military and being in the middle of Margaret and Kate. Rand, I need to talk to you about your family. Margaret stood up straight and crossed her arms, pursing her lips into a thin line. Mom, it's not like Dad doesn't know I'm a witch, and it's not like I don't know I got it from his side of the family. Besides, his family is my family too, Nikki said. She wanted to be a mature adult and show her parents that she could handle anything, but she could hear her snide and whiny teenager coming out. You may be a legal adult, but that doesn't mean I have to talk to you about everything, Margaret snapped. You see this? Margaret rounded on her husband. This? She gestured to Nikki, is what I've had to put up with since her birthday. Since they came back. Rand, you need to strip them right now. I can't, Rand said, standing. Don't give me that. I know you can. Only the witch herself has the power to relinquish her powers. Another cannot remove her powers for her. Rand took a step toward Margaret. She is a child. She can't make these decisions for herself. You did it before. Do it again, Margaret argued. She is still in the room, Nikki said. My ability to bind her powers was mine only because I was her legal guardian. She's an adult now and no longer needs a guardian. Even if I could take her powers away, Rand explained, taking his wife's hand, I wouldn't. It's not my choice to make. Margaret pulled her hand away. You're all the same, she spat. She turned on her heel and left. It's actually the longest conversation I've had with her in a while, Nikki said. What do you mean? Rand turned to face his daughter. Sitting back down on her bed, Nikki told him everything. From her birthday, including the donut, the octopus, and changing hair colors, to the bonfire, all the way to the vision she had shared with Emma only yesterday. She didn't leave out a single detail, not even how she found out about the snake bite. Rand sat at the foot of her bed as Nikki told him about Nelly and about how they needed her but weren't going to force her to do anything. She told him about Emma and how she was also a once-in-a-generation marvel. She even told him about the school project which brought the three girls together in the first place. Her father didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, he simply stood up and said, I ought to go explain things to your mother, and left. For a moment, it had been a massive relief to tell everything to her dad. But as Nikki sat in her room alone again, she found herself wondering if she had done something wrong. 25 December 2008. Christmas is probably my favorite holiday. I got Rochelle some organic, naturally dyed yarn. She loved it and is already planning her next project. She got me a new journal, which is good since this one is almost full. Charles Dickens was fun last night. He was so pleased we picked him again. Grandma seemed distracted, though. She didn't say if she found what she was looking for in her book, but my gut says she did, and whatever it wasn't good news. Emma's phone buzzed. She clicked open the text, which was from Nikki, and read, Hey, want to meet up to do a present exchange? Emma responded saying she would and suggested her own house in about 15 minutes. Deciding to shower before Nikki got there, Emma closed her journal. Oh, before I forget, Emma said to herself. She grabbed Nikki's Christmas present and put it on the kitchen counter. It had been some time since she tidied her room and she didn't want to risk losing Nikki's present in the mess. After a quick shower, Emma walked out of the bathroom wearing a bathrobe with her wet hair piled high in a towel. She felt suddenly warm all over. Congratulations, Caitlin, you've finally done it. You've killed Nikki. Are you happy now? Don't be ridiculous, Margaret. Nikki is the most powerful witch that has ever existed. You honestly believe a little water will stand in her way? She is a child. As Emma watched the argument between the adults, her voices became muffled. She was being pulled away from them. For the first time in her life, she found herself face to face with herself. Future Emma looked at present Emma and spoke furiously, but no sound came out. She was only able to decipher a few phrases. No time. Explain. Keep him home. Away. Who? Away from what? Emma said as the vision cleared from her eyes. Emma, are you all right? Rochelle came into the hallway and saw Emma lying on the floor. Her towel had fallen out and her damp hair dripped around her. I had a vision, but I knew I was having it, Emma murmured as Rochelle helped her stand up. Rochelle grabbed Emma's towel. What do you mean? Don't you always know when you're having a vision? She asked, handing the towel to Emma. Emma put her hand to her forehead. Nikki will be here any minute. I'll explain then. I need to get dressed. She stumbled into her room. A few minutes later, Emma returned to the living room dressed in a flower print pajama set Ethel had given her for Christmas. She sat on the couch, her damp hair up in a bun. Emma didn't hear Nikki come in, but she sensed her magic when she entered the room. Looking up, Emma saw Nikki holding a package wrapped in red, glittery wrapping paper and tied with a green bow. Merry Christmas, Nikki said, though her voice betrayed her. The two words dripped with concern. Merry Christmas, Emma smiled and added, I know Rochelle told you, but let's do presents first. Rochelle brought Emma's present for Nikki in from the kitchen, and the girls exchanged gifts. You first, Emma said, gesturing to Nikki. Nikki untied the red yarn and pulled on the brown paper hold on. Nikki untied the red yarn and pulled on the brown paper, hand-stamped with little red reindeer, revealing a cardboard box, one made of heavier cardboard with a lid, all recycled, of course. She glanced at Emma, who nodded. Nikki pulled the lid of the box. Oh my gosh. Nikki pulled the lid off the box. Inside, resting on a bed of green shredded paper, was a small leather-bound book. Nikki picked it up. It just fit her hand. The tips of her fingers were able to close over it. She flipped through it and discovered its pages were blank. Kate told me most witches receive a little book like this. The more ancient race of witches called it a grimoire. Each witch was given one to record spells and enchantments. Kate said they were usually given around age 8 when formal training began, but seeing as you were 18 instead, Kate thought it would be a good present now. Better late than never and all that. Her words, not mine. Anyway, she knew she wouldn't be here for Christmas, so she gave me the idea and I picked out one I thought you'd like, Emma explained, hardly breathing between sentences. Flipping the mahogany-colored book over in her hands, Nikki said, "Thank you." She smiled and gingerly set the book back into the box. Replacing the lid and looking up at Emma, Nikki added, "Your turn." Emma pulled on the green bow. The friction between the bow and glitter-covered wrapping paper sent a mass of sparkles exploding all over Emma's blanket. Emma loved the glitter. She liked all glitter. She unwrapped her present, a small green tin, roughly 3 by 5 inches across and 3-ish inches deep. She opened the tin and revealed a pewter unicorn about twice the size of a walnut. Emma held the unicorn close and studied it. It wasn't fashioned after the modern version of unicorn, the cliché white horse with a horn. This unicorn was of an older time, when unicorns had the tails of lions and were slender, delicate creatures. The unicorn looked to its left side and was standing on one hoof on point. "Do you like it?" Nikki asked, chewing on the inside of her lip. "It's amazing. The detail is exactly like the pictures in that book," Emma said. One of the many books the girls had been assigned to read, Nikki more recently than Emma, was An Illustrated Guide to Magical Creatures by Harriet Swift. As the girls sat waiting for something or other, they had looked through the pictures, admiring the art as well as the magnificence of the beasts that once, and according to some rumors possibly still, roamed the earth. "There's more in the tin," Nikki said, pointing. "Chocolate!" Emma had been so fascinated by the unicorn that she had completely failed to notice what the unicorn had been laying on, over a dozen small, individually wrapped dark chocolates. Emma put the unicorn back in the tin, set it aside, and stood, giving Nikki a big hug. "Thank you so much," Emma said. "You're welcome," Nikki said, "and thank you." They broke their embrace, and Emma said, "You're also welcome. Now to the not-as-fun part of your visit." Emma sat back down. "What happened in your vision?" Nikki asked, sitting next to Emma on the couch. Rochelle sat on Emma's other side. "For starters, it was the first time I ever felt warm, but had a vision that seemed really sad." Emma shook her head and sighed. "At first, I was watching your mom and grandma argue." "Well, that's not news," Nikki said. "Yeah, except they were arguing over whether you were dead," Emma admitted. "That is news." Nikki raised her eyebrows. "No kidding. Your mom believed you had been killed, whereas Kate believed you were too strong. Her exact words were, 'Don't be ridiculous, Margaret. She's absolutely fine. Nikki is the most powerful witch that's ever existed.'" "Well, I actually know something about that," Nikki admitted. "What do you mean?" Rochelle asked. Nikki told them about Rand's surprise visit, their earlier talk, and ended with the mystery prophecy. "Wow," Emma said. "I wonder if that's why Kate told my grandma to make sure you were reading prophecies." "That makes a lot more sense than simple general knowledge of other magics," Rochelle said. "I thought so too," Nikki said. "So wait, what else happened in your vision?" "After Kate said you were powerful, she said, 'Do you honestly believe a little water will stand in her way?'" "Water?" Nikki repeated, like she hadn't heard Emma properly. After a moment, she said, "Like in our vision?" "I guess," Emma said, shrugging. "But here's where the vision gets really weird. I was talking to myself." No, that doesn't make sense. It was more like my future self was aware of my present to me, but past to her self was having the vision. And she was talking to me, but because she is me, that makes it so I'm talking to myself. But I get it, Nikki said, waving her hand. "What were you trying to tell yourself?" "I couldn't hear anything. I could only read my lips, but I was able to make out a few words." Emma pulled out a small piece of paper with some scribbles on it and handed it to Nikki. "No time. Explain. Keep him home. Away." "What does it mean?" Nikki asked, handing the paper to Rochelle so she could read it too. Emma shrugged. "I wish I knew. I mean, who is him? And when should we keep him home? Whoever he is, he can't stay home forever." None of this makes sense, Nikki agreed. We should tell your grandma about this, Rochelle said, glancing up from the paper. Just then, Nikki's phone rang. She looked at the front of it. Mom. Nikki groaned, hopping off the couch. I have to take this. She wandered into the kitchen, and after a few painful seconds later, she returned to the living room. Sorry, she said with a tight smile. My mom needs me home, apparently. She folded up the recycled wrapping paper and stuck it and the cardboard box into her bag. I'll ask my dad about your vision, but I don't think he has a lot of experience with psychics. I'll also ask him and Gabby if either of them knows where I can reach my grandma. She might be able to help. Yeah, let me know, Emma said. Thanks again, and Merry Christmas, Nikki said, giving Emma and then Rochelle a hug. They wished her Merry Christmas, and Rochelle walked Nikki to the door. Do you think she'll be okay? Nikki whispered before leaving. She doesn't look it, but she's a tough cookie, Rochelle said, giving Nikki's shoulder a reassuring squeeze. I'll call you guys as soon as I know anything I'll call you guys as soon as I know anything new, Nikki said. Likewise, Rochelle said. Good gravy. Turns out reading after I've already been reading makes it harder to read. So that is the end of chapter 20. Next week, chapter 21, we have about 11 chapters. 21. Yeah. We have 11 chapters, and then we're done with the book. So, if you want to read ahead, Amazon, thanks for being here.